hit go live, we're
It's
live.
preparing to live stream.
No, we're live.
Wait.
No, not
We
yet.
are?
No, we're not live yet.
Oh, good.
Oh,
I'm
no,
still.
yeah, we are live.
We are live.
Oh, okay,
No,
that's
it
great.
wasn't
Hey, guys,
really
we're live.
Yeah,
Okay.
no joke.
Everybody's
Did we ever tweet this out? We are live.
we are live. I don't even know where the thing is. Okay. Well, I'll figure this out as we go. Everybody, thanks for there we are. Okay. It's my first time using Zoom. Tone said it was really easy. I am not that intelligent. It was not easy for me, but at least
it's really easy. It's really easy when you do it every day.
Right.
True. All right, well, let's get started. Okay, so we have Tyler, obviously, very exciting. We got Tone with this really pretty view. I think he's eating something.
I can't see anybody.
This is gonna be a fun one. Actually, you're frozen, Tyler.
Yeah, I've got a black screen.
Okay.
Oh.
This is gonna be a fun, interesting situation. Well,
I said we were heading into the void.
Tone, tell us quickly about Australia while we get Tyler back.
You know what? I haven't seen that much of Australia. I mean, it's nice. The people are nice. I don't know. It's just reminds me so much of New York and the U.S. It's not like Asia. You know, like when I go to somewhere in Vietnam or China, the first thing I want to do is leave the apartment and just start randomly walking down the street. But in Australia, it's like you don't do that. So I haven't really. I don't know. Just it's like I'm home. It's like New York. Only everything's backwards.
Well, have you been to any of the beaches yet, Tyler? When you start moving, then I'll let you know. We'll wait on that one. You haven't like gone to the beach. You're not.
It's been cold. It's been like freezing. You have to wear like a sweatshirt. It's I didn't get here at good weather, I guess. And in Melbourne, I went to the beach like on my last day, but it was like in the afternoon. I wasn't like gonna go in the water or anything like that. And in Sydney, I just got here yesterday, so I just went out, got some food and a drink, and that's about it. And now it's morning again, so we'll see. I'll go out tonight.
All right, I think Tyler's gonna jump back in. You're in Sydney, and you haven't been like Tony, you're in like.
I got here yesterday. Yeah, I got here yesterday.
Okay. You have some like AstroTurf that you're sitting on.
Yeah. I'm on like a balcony. Oh, you can see that, huh? Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna try to help Tyler get back in, and so I'm gonna go straight to you, Tone.
All right.
You ready for screen?
Hold on. Before you do that.
Yeah.
Wait, Leah. Before you do that, did we tweet this out?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me retweet it.
Oh, look.
And I want to pull up the troll ball.
Okay, you can tweet. And then we have some questions. Why don't we just kind of make this like a little, news brief / trading show / craziness, because a lot of craziness has been happening. Tyler, I see you. Can't hear you.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
I don't see him.
I don't see you. Hold on. I am the puppeteer master. There you go, Ty. Woo!
Back from the void.
Well, I think this is like a comedy show for everybody as well. Okay. All right. Well, while Tone's doing his thing, I'll put you, Ty, on the spot. What did you think about the interview that Tone had with Ugly Old Goat?
Well, I wouldn't have understood any of it if I hadn't started by listening to the interview with Craig Wright, which was absolutely remarkable. And kudos to Tone, because that had all of the possibilities and probabilities of blowing up in Tone's face, because Craig Wright is so volatile, but Tone handled it extremely well by sitting back and just asking the right questions and then probing Craig Wright about what his intentions were. And for most of it, he tried to deflect it and not make any definitive statements. But by the end of the interview, we knew exactly what he was intending to do, which is to leave the other side, Roger Ver and anyone linked with Roger, as what he called a corpse. And Tone, of course, laughed at that. And Craig Wright did not laugh at that. And so Tone asked him again, and he answered again, corpse, C-O-R-P-S-E. And then he went about telling us exactly how he planned to do it. And by identifying, Tone went pool by pool in terms of the mining and the hash rates, and came to some number less than 50%. And then Craig Wright said, yeah, but you don't understand who these other pools are. So Tone went piece by piece through those, and all of a sudden we were talking about 55, 60, 65, 70% that, according to Craig Wright, are going to be on his side. And it brought to mind for me the philosophical paradox that's called the immovable object paradox. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? And that's what we're witnessing between now and Thursday. So I want to get Tone's take on what's actually going on with BitMEX. But Tone pointed out in the interview with Ugly Old Goat that BitMEX has painted themselves into a corner because they've taken sides before the Thursday fight began. And the thing about the immovable object paradox is it's impossible. You cannot have an unstoppable force and an immovable object. One of them has got to give. And BitMEX ended up voting on one side, and Craig Wright made it very clear that that side, in his opinion, is not only going to not win, but going to be crushed. And so the question becomes, what happens to BitMEX and the contracts that don't expire till December that are going to be based on Roger Ver's side of the fork? So I thought it was absolutely incredible. That's why I tweeted it out to everybody. Do not miss this. See both, carefully study both interviews, because it was a great back and forth between Ugly Old Goat and Tone. And I've listened to both of them 3 times now, and came to the conclusion that crypto is very possibly entering the void in the next 48 hours. And everybody can define that any way they want. But to me, this could be an existential move by both of these parties, unless somebody backs down very quickly or they end up working together, which I don't see as a possibility. But so that's my take.
Thanks, Ty. All right. By the way, everybody, I'm kind of playing around with Zoom at the same time that I'm listening, following your questions, and trying to figure this out. Tone's laughing at me the whole time. Tyler, great. Tone, response to what Tyler just thought about your stop laughing at me, and what did you think about specifically your interview with Ugly Old Goat and all the craziness that's been happening? Stop laughing at me.
Yeah, no, I thought the Ugly Old Goat interview went well. I really wanted to highlight his articles because he's been writing some really, really good stuff. And to be honest, the Craig Wright interview went pretty much how I envisioned it, because what happened was no one does research in this space. And it really, really bothers me that no one actually does research. Like, and here's how I know this, right? Because I don't have time to do research. I'm busy. But when I start doing research, and within 10 to 15 minutes of me starting to do my research, I discover stuff that like no one else is really talking about. And like it boggles your mind. Like people are just not doing anything. Like I understand that if it took me, I don't know, a day or two of researching to find something interesting, but it literally takes 5 to 10 minutes. So that tells me people are doing nothing, absolutely nothing. So it only took me about 5 to 10 minutes to realize that Craig Wright's version of BCH is not something to be ignored. It's gonna be a major player. And it only took me 10 minutes to figure that out when I finally said, hey, maybe I should take a look at what's going on with the drama. And the moment I found out, like I said, it only took 10 minutes. I immediately texted him and I'm like, hey, what if he agrees to come on the show? And he did. And right after my interview, all of a sudden, everyone understands that he's not, like it's, and you can debate all day long whether he's crazy or not, but he's not to be ignored in this battle. And everyone was ignoring him in this battle. They all thought that his side of the fork can't succeed. And like I said, because it only took me 10 minutes to find out that he can succeed, I needed to make sure the world knew about it. And then I found out the BitMax contract like the next day, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And it's not even BitMax's fault on screwing up the contract. It's the fault of the exchanges underlying that contract because none of them did any research. See, this is the sad part of the crypto space. If I can figure out in 10 minutes that Craig Wright's version, the end-chain version of the contract, is gonna have the majority of the hash rate with the intention of destroying the other side, what the hell are these exchanges doing? What is Kraken doing? What is Poloniex doing? What are these exchanges doing when they blindly and stupidly pick the side? Now, I was on the opposite side of this argument during the Bitcoin fork. And I said, what the hell is Coinbase doing? How dumb are they to ignore the Bcash side of the equation? At the time, like when Coinbase said they weren't going to honor the Bitcoin Cash side, I was against Bitcoin Cash. I thought Bitcoin Cash would be worth zero. But as a company holding on to other people's money, you should not have an opinion on this, and you need to figure out how can you protect your client's money. And Coinbase and many exchanges completely screwed up in the Bitcoin fork with Bcash, and now they're screwing up again, but in the opposite direction with the current Bcash fork.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. Can you hear me, Tone?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. For some reason, I can't see Leah. I can only see Tone and myself.
I can see Leah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so Tone, what is going on with BitMEX since they sent out, I guess it was 2 days ago or 3 days ago, their announcement? Has there been anything else from them? Does anyone there, are they making any statements at all?
I honestly don't know because I've been banned from BitMax, so I haven't been paying attention. But basically, I heard in passing that they did confirm, and it was obvious. Like we saw it, like people that pay attention, like even Ugly Old Goat said, all of a sudden the Bcash contract on BitMax looked weird from a price perspective. And that was the time when I was looking at the terms and I keep reading the terms and I'm like, this seems weird. This seems like if Craig Wright wins, one side of that contract wins everything, wins the whole thing. And I look, there is no solution. I don't know, like, I haven't thought about a solution. Again, you can recognize a problem, and then you can think about a solution, and then you can try to implement the solution. I haven't really thought about a solution for the BitMax BCH contract problem. I don't need to think about a solution. I'm not running the exchange, right? I'm here to point out the problem. And the problem is it created a one-sided bet. And that's why that contract went completely out of line with the underlying price of BCH, because the other side had all the hash rate. And they have, by the way, I made sure I sent out a tweet this morning, right before this show. It looks like they currently have 78.5% of the hash rate. So they can maintain their own chain for Bitcoin SV, and at the same time, 51% destroy Bitcoin ABC.
That's insane.
That's unbelievable. That's incredible, because when you gave your show and you were looking at the hash rates, it came out to be less than 50%. And Craig Wright said, yeah, but you're not including these others. And then you went pool by pool around the chart with him saying, no, that's on our side, that's on our side, that's on our side. And by the time we got to the end of it, it was well over 50, it was closer to 60 or 65. And now you're saying it's up to 78. So here's my question.
And growing. It's growing. If you look at my tweet from like an hour ago, it's growing because other pools, the pools that didn't care about Bitcoin Cash, the pools like F2 Pool and others that were only there mining for the money, they're gone. They all left. They probably went back to Bitcoin.
Right. Well, that was my next question, because I personally don't care about any of that as long as it destroys as many of the other cryptos and other exchanges as possible. It'll get us to where I want it to go quickly. However, my question is, what are the possible alternatives for Bitcoin? Now, about 3.5 hours ago on the Bitcoin chart, the price closed on an hourly basis at the lowest level it's been in 2 weeks. And it's holding right around 62.60, 62.70, but that's the lowest closing candle in the last 2 weeks. Is that significant, do you think? What is going to happen on Thursday with the possible alternatives? Is money going to flow into Bitcoin, or is money simply going to flow out of everything?
I think, honestly, on Thursday, the money that I think the money that is quasi connected to BCH, I think that money is gonna just lock up. If you're gonna move see, that's the thing, right? Like Tyler, you and I, I'm trying to get to my chart so I can see what you see, and then maybe we can do like a screen share or something. And so where is, sorry, oh okay, never mind. I put it on the wrong side. That was my bad. Oh, I wasn't even watching the troll box. Yeah, Leah, if there's any good questions, that'd be great. So I think that I just want to look at the prices. I want to see what you see. Do you set daily chart or weekly chart, Tyler?
No, the hourly chart closed at the lowest level that it has in 2 weeks since October the 31st.
I don't have that because I'm looking at Bitfinex. This must have been Bitstamp.
Yeah, it was Bitstamp.
Yeah, so they're getting so out of whack. It's let me change my hourly chart to yeah, they're getting so out of whack again, mostly because of Tether. Let me look at the hourly chart on on Bitstamp. Okay, got it. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's the thing, right? Like,
Screen
for me,
share, Tim.
oh,
on
I'm not.
screen share.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We can do screen share. We're on Zoom, right? Okay, I still remember how to use Zoom. There we go. So here is the hourly chart of Bitstamp. Look, it did just give us a 9, and it is giving us a reversal candle. So I think Bitcoin is going to bounce. I really think that people are going to get scared in holding BCH through the Thursday. So it's very possible that we can get a bounce in Bitcoin from people exiting their Bcash position, not knowing what's going to happen. And they don't want their Bcash to be in lingo, not knowing if the exchanges did not do any research to understand that it's not going to be a simple, hard forks are bad. In Roger Vere's video from earlier, from like 3 or 4 days ago, he admitted that hard forks are bad. He finally realized it, because contentious hard forks are a disaster. And when you're an exchange that did not do any research about this hard fork, how in the world should you trust them handling your crypto, your BCH, during the actual fork, if they couldn't even take 30 minutes to do research? Is the upgrade by Bitcoin ABC viable and going to happen? Like, they didn't even do that. Like, it's ridiculous. And this is why I remain a big fan of traditional exchanges and not crypto exchanges, right? And so my view on it is, it depends how many people are going to be smart and get out of BCH before that day, because you don't know if it's going to be functional the next day. Now, as far as technical analysis is concerned, until we get a close below the low close on October 11th, basically the day before the Tether mess. Oh, this is the 4-hour chart. Doesn't really matter. I can go to the 1-hour chart. So until we get a close that is lower than the cluster pre-Tether, FOMO, panic, whatever you want to call it, this is not really relevant to me. But the moment we get a close below that area, the moment we get a close below the pre-Tether blow-up area, I think Bitcoin is gonna, I think a lot of Bitcoin holders might panic and sell.
Tyler, what do you think?
I really don't know. That's why I call it the void. I can't think of how someone like BitMEX, first of all, gets out of that mess, and what that is going to mean to Kraken and Polonius and anyone else that's involved in any way with the contracts, without everything seizing up, meaning shutting down trading for a period of time till everybody can get their act together. That's what I mean by void. And so what I'm wondering about, and once again, I don't care, those people that have followed Leah and I for the last 10 months have not been in Bitcoin, have not been in cryptos. We're sitting on the sides in cash. But my big question is, when am I going to put that cash to work? And one answer is when Bitcoin bounces off of my phase 2 line, which is now up very close to 6,000. And by this Sunday is going to be over 6,000. And we are just a hair's breadth away from that number. So I'm sitting here saying in 48 hours, something is about to happen. And it's not just two people fighting. It's basically for 100% of the hash power. It's winner take all. It's unstoppable force against an immovable object. And unfortunately, anyone in anything is between a rock and a hard place. The best place to be is on the outside looking in not on the inside trying to figure out which of these two things or three things is going to happen. I just don't know. I've never seen anything like this before because you don't get it in traditional markets. You don't get it in regulated markets. You don't get it in markets where the exchanges themselves are regulated with boards of trustees and boards of directors and links to the regulators and all kinds of reports that have to be filed and all kinds of audits. Here, once again, is the wild, wild west. But now we've got these two gunmen both staring down the barrels of pistols 6 inches away from each other. And who's going to flinch? Or are they both going to pull the trigger at the same time? And what does that mean for everyone else that's involved in this thing? I just have no answers.
Cutting in, question for you, Tone. So
Yeah.
We've talked, especially you and I, Tyler, on our show. I threw that question in at you last time before I ran off. I don't even know who's on full screen right now. I'm still trying to figure out Zoom. But obviously volatility has been really boring, but with all of this going on, do you think that it's possible that this fork saga is the event that's going to finally induce a big drop of confidence and price across cryptos, hopefully killing as many as possible, but get us to the bottom?
No. No, because like as interesting as it is, for especially those of us that have completely gotten rid of all of our BCH, the first chance we had, as interesting as it is, we are sitting here debating a market that is less than 10% of Bitcoin. And after this, it'll probably be less than 5%, maybe even less than 3%. So we really are like Bitcoin is so boring that this is in the news. Actually, Bitcoin is so boring that not even this is in the news. Me and BitMax is in the news over this even. Like, that's how boring Bitcoin is right now. That basically shows it to you. So as fun as this is to debate, this will have absolutely no, in 2 weeks from now, this will have zero effect on Bitcoin, when right now it has maybe a fringe 3 to 5% relevance to actual Bitcoin.
Tyler, response?
Well, I just don't know. My premise has been, the question is, up in December of last year, December of 2017, where the cryptos peaked and Bitcoin peaked, what caused all of them, Bitcoin and all the others, to begin a 10-month bear market? Now, from a technical point of view, it simply got way too overextended above where it should have been. That's a given. But my question is, why haven't we seen either Bitcoin going down and or some of the alts going down? Why are all of the alts and Bitcoin going down and have been going down irreversibly for 10 months? And I still believe there's a lot more to come. My premise on the fundamental side of that question is that there is such a fundamental difference between the soundness of Bitcoin and the soundness of every other project, that with Bitcoin dropping, it became very easy for everyone to understand by watching the relative movement of all the other cryptos that the leader of the pack is Bitcoin. But now we are in a position where Bitcoin is gaining market cap fairly rapidly because the great majority of the alts are falling faster than Bitcoin is falling. That doesn't mean that people are switching into Bitcoin. It simply means that if Bitcoin has relative strength in a down market, it will gain market cap. And I believe that's what's been going on. So I disagree a little bit with Tone that what this thing is all about. I think if Craig Wright and Roger Ver disappear after this is over, which won't happen, if they did, I don't think that changes anything fundamentally about the entire ecosystem. But what will happen is a lot of people are about to lose a lot of money, one way or the other. And that's going to be reported in the media worldwide. And once again, Bitcoin is going to be caught with 2,000 of these other projects under scrutiny and all the exchanges under scrutiny. And I think that sets back everybody, but also Bitcoin. I don't believe there are people out there that have learned how to differentiate. And the regulators certainly haven't up to this point, other than with words, but not with any deeds. Therefore, if something bad is about to happen, I think it's going to negatively affect Bitcoin prices and could precipitate the drop we've all been talking about.
I think that was a really interesting point that also Ugly Old Goat was making, that the three of us, I guess now four of us, often make, which is just simply that very few people can distinguish Bitcoin from crypto ecosystem generally. But to follow up with a question to you, Tone, can't the Satoshi Vision supporting exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, etc., support the ABC chain, even if the hash rate is much lower than SV? SV could still be the less valuable fork, but with more hash.
Well, sure. Of course they can support, but that's the thing, right? Like, exchanges are not supposed to pick sides. And they're not supposed to pick sides. They're supposed to do what is financially best for their clients who are holding money with them. And if you're going to be trading, look, everyone was trading Bitcoin. I mean, if you're an exchange and you don't trade Bitcoin, that's weird, right? So when there is a controversy in Bitcoin, it's assumed they should have supported both sides. Exchanges that didn't support both sides got screwed. Now, when it comes to altcoins, the probability of something unreasonable happening with an altcoin besides a Bitcoin is unreasonably high. So if you are an exchange that decided to continue trading and holding a shitcoin for your clients, it doesn't matter what that shitcoin is. In this case, we are looking at BCH. You need to have dedicated people that understand what's going on with that coin. Because, again, this is crypto and this is the unregulated space. Now, if something this crazy happened to a stock or was going to happen to a stock, the exchange would have a direct line to the regulator and say, hey, regulator, what should we do? How do we handle it so that you do not go after us later for doing the wrong thing? You can't do that in this case because none of these exchanges are actually regulated. Now, Tyler asked a good question. How does BitMax get out of that contract and what do other exchanges do? Well, you don't. It's pretty simple. Other exchanges can simply say, if Bitcoin SV wins, and like Tyler just said, I'm not really picking sides here. I'm just providing the information. I'm providing the information that this isn't as simple as, oh, Craig Wright and Nchain and CoinGeek, they're irrelevant because we have the economic nodes and we have the people with the branding like Bitcoin.com and Roger and Jihan. And basically, no, it's not that simple. So for the exchange can simply do what is best for the holders of their coin. So if Bitcoin ABC kind of dies, but Bitcoin SV is BCH with all of the financial value in it, the exchange can simply transfer that value onto their clients and say, Bitcoin ABC died, all the value is now in BCH, and you, we owe you this value, and there you go. Now, if that happens, because of the way BitMax structured its contract, those that shorted that contract, they would earn 100% of the difference versus those that went long that contract. So those that went long that contract might complain that the underlying is still BCH and it's still worth a bunch of money, but those that went long the contract should have read the terms of the contract that were announced by BitMax. If you didn't read the terms of the contract and you lost all of that money by going into that contract, I mean, that is your fault. The terms of the contract were very, very clear. And I looked at them, I read them, and that's exactly what happened. Now, unfortunately, that trade was ended, but that's a different story, right? Now, there's no real reason to talk about that. No reason to talk about why Tone wasn't able to profit from understanding a contract terms and taking advantage of it. But that's a different case. So I don't really see that big of a deal, other than people need to do better research. People need to read contract terms, especially in futures contracts or swap contracts. And you gotta put in your trade knowing what the rules of the contract are, and that's it.
Thanks, Tone. I am going to take a comment by the live chat, rephrase it, ask it into a question to you, Tyler, while also potentially trying to paraphrase something you said in an interview, Tone. So let's see how this one goes. So you were talking about with Ugly Old Goat, which I obviously found very fascinating. You know my background with Wall Street, that people were up in arms about the JP Morgan Chase trader that got taken down for spoofing. And yet all the manipulation that happens in the crypto markets all the time. Now, someone in the live chat said pretty much that it would be interesting to see how the media would report on how everything that's happening with BCH. Now, they're not, to another point that you were making earlier in this show already, and that you are the talk of the town right now. Maybe switching it back over to you, Tyler. When do you think, and what would be necessary to happen where an outlet like CNBC, even though they get everything wrong, finally finds the news of the most blatant, utter manipulation and illegal things that I've seen in my history in finance, which is much less than you guys, actually become topics and start discussing them on news outlets in the same way that Tone was poking fun of the spoofing?
Well, what is so fascinating to me is how tiny the crypto space really is relative to Wall Street or relative to the media. What I mean by that is we get, all worked up about these things that are going on. They cannot go on and do not go on in Wall Street. Now, they did 150 years ago, and there's various times that this kind of stuff goes on. But you and I, Leah, have called it the Wild West from the beginning. And we use that term to mean that there are cattle rustlers, there are stake jumpers, there are all sorts of gunmen and thieves wandering around doing whatever they want to, and there is no Texas Ranger to be found. And the media will look in every once in a while and talk about the price. Or the media on CNBC will every once in a while get someone with a fairly big name on Wall Street to say things are good in the crypto land or things are bad in crypto land. But as Tone says, no one is doing any sort of research. This is a very big story for the non-believers of crypto. If I was a reporter for the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, I would write a 6-page article about what is happening right now, because no one would believe it. No one would believe that this kind of nonsense can go on, where what is thought to be the almost monopoly on mining, all of a sudden becoming something almost completely different overnight, because one person has put together a group of pools to work with them. And at the same time, we're talking about the founder of and spokesman for the whole Ethereum, which the media has fallen in love with because of a platform that can do all these wonderful blockchains and all these great things are going to happen in the future. And here we've got those two people pitted against each other, you know, with their 6 guns drawn, 6 shooters drawn, facing off in the streets, no sheriff in sight, no one asking any questions. And literally overnight, it could change the face of the way the rest of the world looks at crypto, which up to this point is just mild amusement. You know, ooh, these guys made $1 billion and this guy sold 2 pizzas and he could be a multi-million. That's what everybody's focusing on. No one is focusing on this as anything to really report on, anything important. And to me, what that suggests are nowhere near a bottom. Because when this kind of stuff can go on with no one talking about it, Tone taking 10 minutes to look at a couple of things and realizing what's about to happen, and fortunate enough to get one of the 2 players on. It'd be great if you could get Roger Ver on before Thursday to hear that side of it. It's just stunning to me. So your comment
that actually
about
would be great, Tyler. That would be great if I could get Roger Ver on. I'll do my best.
It would be fabulous. And that would start getting some coverage because, well, just because. But in any case, what my point is I don't see this as a little thing that is inconsequential, because we've been walking around in a cave full of methane, hoping nobody strikes a match. Somebody's just about ready to strike a match. And it's not that the match is going to do anything except set off an enormous explosion. And I don't mean, I could see a number. Now, remember what just happened with the SEC and exchanges. They showed they had the long reach of the law across borders because US citizens were able to buy unregulated securities. So they shut down this little diddly doodle thing, no big deal. But now all of a sudden you got some of the biggest, almost the biggest exchanges in the middle of this big fight, all unregulated. The exchanges are unregulated, the miners are unregulated, the players are unregulated. One person can get 100% of the hash rate, that's unregulated. It's about, I think, somebody is about ready to strike a match. And it's not going to be good except if you're out of the markets. And if you are on any of these exchanges, I've been telling all of my clients, get as much money off the exchanges as you can, as quickly as you can. I said that about Tether, and I'm not saying that Tether is doing anything wrong. I'm just saying because we do not know, and because it is totally unregulated, and we don't know how any of these exchanges really work, and we don't know if they're betting against their own clients or any of that stuff. I think we are at a point where either the people striking the matches are wet and they're not going to go off, or they're about to go off.
Thanks, Ty. All right, and so Tone, unless we have last thoughts, why don't we go to the charts, see price action? Although maybe last question I have, yep, why are you still laughing at me, Tone? What are you, what are you gonna say?
No, I mean, like very quick thoughts. So I'm gonna wait until next week. I'm gonna wait and see what happens on the 15th before I give, my full opinion as to how this affects Bitcoin in the future. I don't want to do that yet. I mean, I know what I'm going to say. I just don't want to say it too early. I'm just gonna, we'll do it after.
Tone, you have reverb.
And oh, I do.
Yeah.
That's weird. Me open on like YouTube somewhere on a tab.
No, you're good now.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so that's it. We'll save that discussion for later. Other than that, yeah, so here's the thing, right?
Yeah, it's still reverbing.
The other thing I was gonna say was people need to I don't know how I can fix that though. Let me try something. How about this? Can you hear me? Is this better?
Nope, we got you twice. But it's okay. If someone misses you the first time, they get you the second.
I don't know why that is. That never happened before.
And you're frozen.
Okay. Am I still frozen? I can go out and come back in. Okay.
It's because you're in Australia, and that's on the other side of the equator.
Yeah. Anyway, so what people have to realize, this is another reason why there is Bitcoin and then there's garbage, because we've already had. So what are the next two biggest altcoins, right? We have Ethereum that already had its hard fork, and it's and the other side, Aetherium Classic, is not only around and kicking and living. The Aetherium Classic actually is the one that has a tradable version of it in our retirement funds. So Aetherium Classic certainly didn't die, and it's a major player fighting to be Ethereum. And Ethereum is starting to lose all of its market share slowly to EOS, which is just a centralized database where it's a centralized database where there was one incident, from what I heard, they wanted, to cancel some transaction, and one of the 21 people in control of that database couldn't be reached because he was on vacation. So they actually didn't end up canceling some transaction. Just a story that I heard. I believe it, and because it makes sense, because EOS is centralized to 21 people, which makes it a lot more efficient of a database than Ethereum. If Ethereum becomes more centralized than EOS, then Ethereum could start to become more efficient than EOS. It's all about who's more centralized. That's who's more efficient for creating a database for ICOs, which are themselves going to go away. So now we're seeing this with Bitcoin Cash, also turning into a bit of a clown show. And we all know Ripple is a clown show because it's just a pre-printed money. Like, there is nothing there, guys. There is nothing there. Give it another year, and there'll be a split in Monero, and there'll be two viable Moneros. Give it another year, and there'll be a split in Litecoin, and there'll be 2 or 3 viable Litecoins. Like, if you're gonna be responsible for the shitcoins, you have to understand what you're being responsible for. And people will learn. It's taken them years to learn. They're doubling down on their stupid. That's how Ethereum goes to $1,600. Like, Ethereum goes to $1,600, a token that was created by a dozen people that inflates infinitely. And the whole purpose of this token is to be destroyed as gas to move contracts. And that token was worth $1,600. That token is meant to be worthless. It's meant to be something you burn. And that's why they're printing it forever. Anyway, like eventually you just can't get through to people, and you got to let them learn the hard way.
Last question to you, Tone. Well, Tyler, it was your side, so I have you on mute right now. I know it's I'm being a dictator until it's finished. Quick question to you, Tone, then. How is it not evident, or actually, let me rephrase it so I'm not making my own statements here. Given everything that's happening, the parallels, I believe, to Wall Street and traditional equities are becoming even more apparent on the centralization of all other coins except for Bitcoin. Now, how is it that people still don't understand that this is similar to buybacks, this is similar to all fundamentals, everything that we've always seen that has been illegal in the traditional markets? And you know, why isn't something being done? Or maybe the question is, what do you think is most correlative?
Yeah, no, it's actually.
Yeah, Tyler, it's still still on your end.
We can mute and unmute. Yeah, perfect. It's actually a very simple question to answer. That's because people in the crypto space believe that they're seeing something new. They just can't comprehend the fact that everything you're seeing in the crypto space is the reincarnation of what happened in the 90s. And everything in the 90s is the reincarnation of what happened in the 80s when computers came around. And everything in the 80s is the reincarnation. We can go back as far as, you know, the raging 20s bull market of 1922 to 1929, where the stock market doubled almost every year for like 4 or 5 years. Like, none of this is new. Like, people in crypto think that 100 to 1x leverage is something revolutionary in the world of finance. It's not. The S&P 500 contract is leveraged like 250 to 1. Oil is leveraged like 100 to 1. Gold is leveraged. Actually, gold's not that bad. Like, this is not new. Like, some of the commodities, like coffee and sugar, and if you, God forbid, you trade options on those commodities, you're talking almost like 1,000 to 1 leverage. Like, none of this is new. People think that, you know, like shit coins that are worth sub pennies is some kind of a new revolutionary micropayment. It's not. They're pink sheets. You had this 10, 15 years ago. You could have been trading stocks that are worth, you know, sub penny amounts, and you're trading them in tens of thousands of shares. And then you're basically convincing your friends that this, like 8 years ago, you're convincing your friends, hey, you got to buy this stock, man. Right now it's worth 0.003 cents. But I'm telling you, they're going to take down Google. They're better than Google in every way. It's just that right now, people have not realized it yet. So the stock is worth 0.0003 cents. This existed. This has always existed. Same thing with the exchanges. Every one of these exchanges, sooner or later, I mean, either they're going to, this is why Poloniex was sold to someone with the handle on regulation. This is why Bitstamp was probably sold. Every one of these exchanges is either going to go away or they're going to join together with an exchange with a handle on the regulatory landscape. This anonymous trading, as much fun as we have with it, is coming to an end. And it's like it's like the mother of all ironies, where for the last 2 years, I've been made fun of that I'm a person that only talks and doesn't trade. But you know what? I have such a big following, such a reach, that the first trade I make, they actually take down the exchange for making the trade. That's the irony of it.
I'm getting so lost on where this double reverb is coming from, but that was very good. Tyler, I just am unmuting you now. Try it out and let's pull up the charts. And thanks, Don.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, it sounds good.
I will take a quick look at.
Hey, Tyler, do you disagree with anything I just said?
No, not at all. I agree completely with you. This is no different than any other asset class, except it's unregulated. And it's in the process of becoming regulated, and that's what's causing all the problems. But it's nowhere near being regulated, and we will keep going down until it is, or until there are no more players except Bitcoin, in my opinion, as humble as it is. Okay, I was going to pull up screen share, but I see no screen shares on my screen, so I won't. I want to take a quick look at
Hello,
Bitcoin.
I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Just tell me what you want. You want Bitcoin? What time frame and what? Yeah, just what time frame?
Let's do a weekly and
Oh, here's the monthly. Here's the monthly, by the way. Everyone was going wild when the monthly opened up the current month with a green candle going up. And I told everyone, hold their horses because the month is 30 days. And now it's starting to look like a red candle on the monthly. And if we get a brand new monthly low close right at the trend line, if we get a close in the vicinity of $6,000, the monthly is back bearish, but here is the weekly, and I'm still in my triangle. And guess what? If I still had a trading account, I would be looking to double down my trade very, very soon.
yeah, I agree. I don't know if this thing on Thursday is going to be the thing that pulls us down. I just thought it was very interesting that all of a sudden we've got Litecoin trading back below 50. Ethereum is slipping. It was at 112 most of the day. It's down around 106. And we've got Bitcoin now probing closing lows that we haven't seen for 2 weeks. Now, none of that is very important except the fact we are almost down to the bottom of the triangle. We are almost sitting right on my phase 2 line. We are coming to the end of the triangle, and now some crazy stuff is beginning to happen that could be nothing, or it could be something that scares a lot of people that don't understand what's going on. And when people don't understand what's going on, it becomes confusing. A lot of people run for the door. It's like yelling fire in a theater. The first person gets up and starts to move, everybody looks at everybody else, and then all of a sudden you've got 1,000 people running for 2 doors. And that's another way of describing the breakdown of something like a triangle this large, or the breakdown of a phase line, or the breakdown of a head and shoulders below its neckline. It happens very, very rapidly, and it's hard to find what was the catalyst. Who was it that first started moving? Well, we've been moving sideways now for 2.5 months, and we keep getting squeezed smaller and smaller, and we're not making any moves up to the top of the triangle. And look at what the moving averages are doing by projecting them along those 3 dots. And that's if we just kind of stay where we are. Imagine how fast that's all going to drop if all of a sudden we find ourselves at 5,400, which we could do, you know, in the next 15 minutes. I think we are that close to very big things happening. And I'm not predicting that we go down from here, because I could see everyone panicking out of a lot of other altcoins and off exchanges and putting money into Bitcoin because they understand that every time we get a weakness in the market, Bitcoin does better than all the other altcoins. So even the ill-informed are in a position maybe to begin supporting Bitcoin prices, but they better hurry because things are happening pretty quickly, the way I look at it.
Tone, response, thoughts, and people are asking for log, but what did you think?
What do you mean people are asking for log? What does that mean?
you guys see my screen share? People said that they did. I don't know why they're still, that they were wondering if you would put it on log rather than linear, but what
No,
are your
it's on log. No, it's on log. It's on log.
Okay, then.
Yeah, no, my chart is on log. Well, I agree with Tyler. So basically, I've been. Oh, you know what? I can actually. Tyler, I muted you. So basically, I've actually locked down my triangle because I said I am not going to fudge with it anymore because I kept, giving myself more and more room inside the triangle. But if this is the breakdown candle, then I gave myself the maximum amount of room I could. So if I do unlock the triangle, right, I can actually shorten the amount of room I'm giving myself because this is how it was originally, like this, which is probably the better way to do it. And in which case, we are running completely out of room. I gave myself like a little more leeway, but the point is, it doesn't matter how you slightly adjust this triangle. Here's what matters. Oh, Tyler walked away. I was gonna ask him a very quick question, but it doesn't matter. I'll answer it for him because I know what Tyler's answer is going to be. The weekly close is the most important. Oh, Tyler's back. I'm gonna unmute you, Tyler. Hey, Tyler, one quick question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the weekly close is the most important close in the life of an asset?
Yes, I do.
Okay, excellent.
I do, not only for Hyperwave where it's essential, but I like to use it for Consensio and almost all my technical studies. I can't tell you why that is. All I know that after years and years of trying everything, it seems to be the surest way of drawing conclusions about price movement.
Right. And I knew that was going to be his answer. So because the monthly close is just on a too big of a time scale, and going by the monthly close can make you lose 50% of your money in a crash. So you can't really use a monthly close other than looking at long-term 10, 20-year cycles. So we are back to the weekly. Now, if you're a day trader, the weekly close is totally irrelevant to you. In fact, if you're even a day trader, if you're even the daily close for a day trader is probably irrelevant. When I was day trading S&P futures, I remember I was day trading S&P futures every trading day for over a month straight. I was trading it during the day. I was using 10-minute candles. If someone was to ask me at any time that month, is the market going up or down? I will say I have no idea. I have no idea if the market has just had 20 consecutive up days or 20 consecutive down days. I had no clue because all I cared about is making a trade on a 10-minute candle, irrelevant as to where the end of day was. So, okay, so why am I talking about this? I'm talking about it because if this weekly candle is to close right now, it will be the third lowest weekly close of the year, and not by much. So if we close a little bit lower than we are now, right now, for the current candle, our close is 62.72. If by end of week, the close is at 62.36 or lower, it will be the third lowest weekly close we ever had. For reference, the lowest weekly close Bitcoin had this entire year is 61.53. And Tyler, please answer the following question. How in the world is it a bad trade to short the yearly low, even if that yearly low comes on December 30th of that year?
It isn't. The whole thing about shorting weakness or buying strength is knowing precisely where your stops are and having good reason of putting the stops there, because shorting weakness if it continues to be weak, it is going to fall very, very rapidly. If it is going to reverse back up, particularly in something like a triangle, there is all kinds of overhead resistance by definition above it. On the Bitcoin chart, you've pointed out over and over again, not only the moving averages, but also all of the setup lines, the declining moving averages, the top of the triangle. You take your pick, and you've got a very limited amount of potential loss relative to the potential gain. So when and where you do it is far less important if it's the last day of December, or if it's right now, or if it's sitting on the bottom line, or if it's sitting on one of my phase lines or approaching a phase line, which it is. That's saying that enormous pressure is building up and it's about to be relieved. And I've seen studies on that, on things like descending triangles, that if you take the volume relative to the size of the candles within the shape, that volume and the size of the candles become magnified as you get closer and closer to breaking out either to the upside or the downside. And that's why.
Oh, did we lose him?
Where we are now, particularly the big red ones and the big white ones. That is all volume, that is money that is going in to push something in a direction. And so add up the size of all those candles. And by definition, you can't fit many of those candles into where we are right now. They're far too big to fit in the apex of the triangle. That means when it blows, it's going to blow big time, either up and down. And that gets you into probabilities. And probabilities say you've got about a 70% plus chance in this formation for getting anything about hyperwaves or anything about descending moving averages or anything having to do with sequential. Simply the probability of which way you're going to go, and based on that, you place your money.
Hey, Tyler, one last question on this. First of all, it's insane how quickly the 200 period moving average is going to drop as of next week.
Yeah, it really is.
And thank you, by the way, for this awesome tool of projecting where the moving average is going. It's actually really helpful. Yeah, we'll jump over to the traditional markets for a minute as well. The other question I was going to ask you is, what do you make of this insane declining volume over the last few months?
Well, I think it's very, very significant, because there have been these big candles to the upside on each one of the bounces going all the way back, the last 5 bounces. And you need volume to do that. Now what's happening is there is no volume. There is no optimism on the upside. We know at this point that 6,000, 5,800 to 6,200 is providing a big floor. But as you have mentioned, every time that floor has been hit, it's weakening and weakening and weakening. And we're about to see very big volume come into this market. And it could come from an external force, such as this Thursday. I don't mean what happens Thursday will do it, but it can get people to react. And you don't have much room to maneuver here before a lot of technical things are going to happen very, very quickly. So I believe declining volume in a declining market, where you've had some big up moves that I believe are simply short squeezes, but had big volume behind them, but the average volume line continues to drop. That means there are fewer and fewer and fewer players in this market. And that is a very bearish sign.
Thanks, Ty. Gentlemen, I am going to cut you off pretty soon. It's been an hour, and I think it would be interesting to have your final remarks. Tone, what do you think about what Tyler just said? Any additions?
No, I'm on. Like the volume in Bitcoin is always tricky because exchanges, you know, have regulatory concerns. People leave one exchange and go to another. BitMax is not price discovery, so their volume is completely irrelevant when it comes to the price of Bitcoin because they're not price discovery. They're price discovery for, you know, the future of BCH, because if we take a look at BCH, if I take a look at BCH on BitMax here, you can see how it was totally in line. The red line is the actual price of BCH, and the candles is the price of the future on BitMax. And this is where it started to fall apart. And I took my short, I believe, here. Oh, they're in percentages, damn. So it was the 10th of November when I did that interview with Craig Wright. So here's the 10th of November, right? So what had happened was, I'm not going to label it, but I took my short here. I took a third of my profit here. I was going to hold on to 2/3 of my short into the depth of this contract. And of course, when the account was canceled, the position was canceled. So I, of course, and that was a highly leveraged position. So when the account got canceled, I had to, the trade had to end. So I did not make any of this money, which would have been kind of substantial. But that's what happens, right? That's the risk you take of trading in the crypto space and being public, right? That's the combination of it. But yeah, but this is the deviation of the contract. So the difference, this 28% difference, minus 28%, though this is plus 10%, right? I need the zero line. So this is, wow, so that's 28% from zero, and that one is 10% higher. So that's a 38% difference. So the BitMax contract is trading at a 38% drop. So that means that there is a 38% chance that this contract can actually go to zero because if Craig Wright's BCH wins the battle for BCH. So I'm not sure how I got onto this. What was the question, Leah?
I didn't even ask you one.
No, I was going there for a reason.
You were talking about volume, the decreasing volume.
Right. So what I'm saying is the volume on BitMax is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if BitMax has 99.9% of all the volume involving Bitcoin Cash and BCH. What matters is price discovery volume, not derivative volume. Now, and I argued this with Ugly Old Goat last year when we did a podcast together. Now, when it comes to gold and oil, and commodities, the derivative volume is the price discovery volume. So, going short 10,000 contracts of gold affects the price of gold, but going short 10,000 contracts on BitMax does not affect the price of Bitcoin at all. It's still up to those that are using exchanges for price discovery. And the volume on exchanges that do price discovery is going down mostly because of regulation. I think people keep saying how the institutions are going to come in with institutional money, and but I don't think they are. And that's why you're seeing like volume drop. And when volume drops and some big player like a Novogratz or a Tim Draper decides to sell, or some miner decides to get out and like liquidate their stock that they've been holding on reserve, running on fiat loans, when somebody big tries to sell, there's just no demand, because all of these people that were trading without, in a wild west way, either got tired of it and left, or scared of regulation and they're pulling back. And the guys trading on regulated exchanges aren't here yet. So it creates this volume void, and volume voids, while they can boost the price up or crash the price down, tend to crash the price down slightly more often. Those are my final thoughts, unless Tyler wants to say something. But after that, we can jump onto traditional markets for a minute, because I haven't looked at them.
And
yeah,
Tyler,
they're very I'm good on Bitcoin now, but the traditional markets are very funky.
okay. And also, Tyler, some people are still asking a couple more questions about Hyperwave and current line. Any comments you want to just make right now as final capstones on Bitcoin and where the Hyperwave line is sitting?
Yeah, we are running phase 2 lines on all the exchanges. We've got 4 or 5 of the major exchanges that we went back, and we've got a number of people that are sharpening their pencils and being very, very careful. My best estimate is we are at approximately 6,020 as of this week through Sunday, and then we go up to 6,100 Sunday at 8 o'clock. So we're getting down within 200 or 300 points of the phase line, which keeps moving up at approximately $80 per week, and has all the way back to March of 2017.
Thanks, Ty. Yep. Oh.
So we're there. We're there now, and things are about to happen.
Thanks, Ty. All right. Well, let's take one look at the S&P, and then, gentlemen, at least I'd like to catch some sleep.
All right, should I go first, or should you, Tyler? These are they're my charts, so maybe I should go first for a minute, and then I'll let. I saw your video this morning, your last video about the stock market, and it was absolutely excellent, because your last video was 5 days ago, and you cautioned people not to enter the market yet. And then what happened was, here are the futures, and the futures actually were topping on a 9 right after the election. So even though I was saying how this is the day of the election, the stock markets were booming. And then we I believe we simply hit a technical resistance. You can see by the S&P mini futures, yes, we had a bad day on Monday. What's today's day? Or is this Friday?
Tuesday.
No.
Well, you're ahead of us. Wednesday for you.
Okay.
13th for us over here.
Okay, so this was Monday. This is now tomorrow's candle, actually. Okay, so got it. So this was Monday. So Monday, the markets took a big dive. I have not looked at the markets in 4 days at all. I had no idea the markets crashed on Monday. And while this crash looks bad to me, it looks fully in line with a technical picture of reaching an exhaustion 9 with a 1 to 4 candle correction and probably back up. Now, unless we have another slam down, then I can probably go bearish the stock market for the foreseeable future as it enters a bear market. This is going to be a make or break week for the stock market, or over the next 2 weeks, because if we can make it back to this purple line, that is a beautiful head and shoulders or a cup and handle, and the news is totally done. I say if we can break this purple line to the upside, I will then be absolutely bullish the stock market. It's in a slight vulnerable position, but the way the market closed on the 13th, I think is great. Like today's close, I think was actually pretty good. I'm not sure where my daily S&P went. Let me just open it up real quick. my SPX daily. Here is the SPX daily. It's not exactly the doji candle I was hoping to get, but you can see by my arrows that I was looking for a bit of a rejection. It's not going to be easy breaking this moving average cluster. If basically, I'm looking at it this way, if the S&P cannot rebound from this point here, creating that head and shoulders or cup and handle pattern, breaking the moving averages, we could be in for a serious bear market, because I think the institutional guys will start to panic based on weekly charts. But as of right now, it is simply a no trade zone, because once you get a weekly one, the next week, if tomorrow, I mean, if next week is bullish, you get a green price flip, and then a green 2 above a green 1 creates a bullish market. I think these next 2 weeks are absolutely critical. This week from a daily perspective, but also next week from a weekly perspective. I'm not a bull or a bear right now. I have gone completely neutral on the S&P 500, but I'm hoping it's bullish over the next few years.
Thanks, Tyler.
I would agree with all of that. It's a beautiful looking inverse head and shoulders if we get back up to that purple line and can break through it. But the consensio lines on that weekly chart that you just pulled up are saying that we are in a bear market. If you look at the short ones the way I do, 3, 7, and 30. So because of that, I have told everyone ever since the election, which now is a full week behind us, that the big bounce on the day after the election has been given up now, and we are slowly eating away at pre-election prices, depending on which indexes you're looking at. Now, where we are is we're approximately 50% in cash, waiting for Consensio to confirm, because almost all of these indexes have not yet taken out previous lows from January and February, and some of them not even in the April to June pullback. And that's bullish as long as they stay in that pattern. But short of that, this can go either way, and we are either going to raise more cash as we begin to penetrate below longer term moving averages. We've already done it with price, but most averages don't have the intermediate below the long term yet. And when that happens, we could be in a full bear market. I don't expect it. I still believe that the rest of November and into December are going to be positive, but I am not going to let my opinions get in the way. This is a very close call at this point, and caution is warranted.
Yeah, Tyler, and my last thought is the current environment reminds me so much of what happened in 2011. And
yeah,
this is like our current weekly candle, where it looked like, the market has topped, but because the market has topped in such a flat way, I didn't feel that it was going to be a serious top. And then we crashed hard, made a secondary low, and then we made a lower high, got rejected. The Consensio was saying bearish, and then we had this horrible 2 candle, and then it all reversed to the upside. I think the best comparison to the current market is 2011. Some people might point to the 2015 area, but this, which was also election related, like this area here, the 2016 area, but I think that's different. This was even scarier because it made a lower low and a lower high. We're not even at a lower low yet. So I do think that the current environment reminds me so much of that 2011 period.
Yeah, and what all of those kind of things teach you is patience. It's very difficult to be patient if you're fully invested. One of the great attributes of Consensio is it forces you to take little steps, and all of a sudden, if you've taken 3 or 4 or 5 of them, you're half out of the market. And that means if it does turn around here, which I hope it does, and I think it will, then it'll just take 2, 3, or 4 steps and you're back fully invested again, as opposed to getting these huge mood swings between not knowing what to do and going the other way, between fear and greed and all of that sort of thing. So as we sit here, luckily I've got some consulting clients that are moving money from other exchanges to ones that I prefer to trade on. And so they've gone all to cash to make their transfers go more quickly. It's called electronic transfers that take place. It's easier to move cash than it is to move positions. Sometimes it takes a week or 2 weeks to move positions. But I'm telling all of them, look, you're 100% in cash, go to sleep at night and enjoy it. And we will wait to make any sort of decisions about employing that cash. For people that are already in, you should be slowly scaling back as prices dictate, and then just waiting very patiently, and you'll get the signals you need to make the next right decision.
Yeah, and just my closing thoughts, again, to remind people, if you were, Tyler never shorts the market, but me as a swing trader, I didn't care if I'm making money from longs or from shorts. The time to short the S&P 500 was never here at the top, and it was never here at the top. The time to short the S&P 500 is going to be somewhere between a future upcoming low and the bottom purple channel. That's the time to short, because otherwise it's too dangerous of a trade. And the other point I want to make is just a general point, how for some reason, everyone in the crypto space wants the stock market to crash, but believes Bitcoin can't go down, when in reality they are similar. And I never understood, after I no longer became a gold bug, I finally, I can't believe I used to want the stock market to crash at some point in my life, because after 2008, I realized that when the stock market crashes, your friends and family and relatives all lose their jobs. So I don't understand this notion of why people want the stock market to crash.
And Tone, to jump in there for a second and throw it on my brilliant partner, Tyler. Tyler, I do think that you sometimes short, if I understand you correctly, but also some fun stuff on inverse ETFs. So at least just based on what Tone is saying, what are your thoughts as well on when would you potentially think about a short trade or put an inverse ETF, or I'll leave it open to you there.
No, that's a very good question. I've never shorted. I've gone with inverse funds in order to hedge long positions that I've got. It's just a much more efficient way to getting in and out of the market. And if it's a taxable account, it's a wonderful way of doing it, because by hedging long positions, you by definition are going to get losses and gains that'll be about equal. And you can use those losses to offset gains depending on what time of the year it is. So it's a great way of doing it. Personally, I love to short, and I've said I would never short Bitcoin for very specific fundamental reasons. But this time around, when this stock market, the traditional markets, begin actually entering a bear market, I will very probably, for my discretionary accounts, get them to give me permission to go net short, because I think this next time down, which I don't believe is this year or next year and maybe even the next year, but depending on what's going on politically, what's going on with the rest of the world, when the next one comes, it's going to be a doozy. And rather than simply sit aside and let it go down and be out of it, which is very comfortable, I think it's going to warrant actually making money on the downside using some of these techniques. So I might change my stripes next time around.
Oh, I just want to throw in one quick thing. While inverse ETFs are perfectly fine, don't ever, ever, ever touch leveraged ETFs. 2x, 3x, long, short, doesn't matter. FAS, FAZ, do not touch them. We can do a whole show on it about how you are basically throwing your money away by holding any of those ETFs for longer than 24 hours.
Yeah, we will do a show on that. I would disagree a little bit on the long side. The problem on the short side is there's some very, very big tax implications with a 2 times or 3 times inverse short in ETF, because they're forced to make a distribution at the end of the year that becomes fully taxable to you, and you don't expect it. On the long side, it's a little bit different, but that will be a great show because a lot of people wonder about it. And I've got a number of clients that are playing 2 and 3 times against my against what I would do and what I tell them to do, but people do what they want to do sometimes.
Yeah, Tyler, we should do a show on that because we're going to disagree on that, and it'll probably be a very good show.
Great.
All right, Tone, you're still on your screen share of the S&P. Gentlemen, thank you so much. This was a fun show, covered a lot of topics. Everybody, thank you for watching. Apologies that I am cutting it off because I'm tired. I know that you guys would probably talk for like 3 days straight, or years, or millennia, or who knows when we become cyborgs and it just wouldn't end. But Tone, thanks for joining us. Everybody, sorry that I couldn't figure out Zoom. I will try to figure it out. Tyler, thank you so much. Tone, really quick updates on, so you just got to Sydney. What's up next?
I don't know, but it was raining all morning. Now it's nice. So I might do a little bit of work and then go check out the city.
Go to the beach.
No, it's too cold.
Great. Thank you, Tone. We'll see you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tyler.
guys, for having me on. Bye.
Tone, see you in Vegas.
Yes. No, you could hopefully before that. Later.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thanks, Ty.
See ya.
Oh, Leah, wait. I forgot to tell you how to stop the live stream.
Yeah, I got to figure that.
Click the button.
I got it. Wait.
Yeah.
Nope. Hold on.
No, click the button